So this is the review sheet you got in class today. So you feel free to use a calculator because you're going to be um, using calculator in school. So there's no reason why you shouldn't use a calculator at home. The only problem is you might not have a calculator who, what do you call, has a fraction. So we'll work. I'll try to. All right. So I'm gonna pull out my phone. So if you have, I don't know, a laptop or a computer, and you can pull out a program or software that allows you to do fractions, then by all means. So 13 over 9, and again, this is probably going to be a multiple choice question, and it's how, and this is the answer, right? Because it's going to be 1.4 repeated. So your multiple choice might look something like this, right? Or I don't know, 14.4 or something like this. So you obviously know that this is the correct one. Okay. So careful in which one you choose. The repeating numbers of 4 is one number repeating forever and ever, and that's the 4. Okay. 17 over 18, if you have a calculator, and it gives you 9, 0.94, 444 repeated, and again, the bar notation will be on top of the 4. So multiple choice, and again, just you might have something like this, and if you select this one, it's wrong. So at 9 p.m., the temperature was 7. So I'm going to write 9 p.m. over here. And I'm going to write that it was 7 degrees Celsius. By midnight, which is 12 p.m. or 12 a.m., right, the temperature had decreased. So as time progressed, right, the evening progressed, the temperature kept dropping. So at midnight, whatever it was, I don't know what the temperature is at midnight, but I know it got much colder. So imagine you're at 7 degrees at 9 p.m. It's cold. It got much colder, and you decide to, I don't know, walk the dog at midnight. It's going to be freezing. So what's this temperature right here? A lot of ways you can do it. So if you want to label this as your start, and this is your change, and this is your final, I'm looking for the final temperature, right? So the final temperature is the start, remember that, plus the change. So the final temperature, which we don't know, is whatever my starting temperature was, 17 plus negative 18. This is one way of doing it. So the final temperature is going to be negative 12. Negative 12 degrees Celsius. So another way of looking at it is an elevator problem. Here you are. Here's the ground floor. Here you are on the 7th floor. And you're told to go 18 floors down. Right? Where are you now? So you can say, well, you took the flights, 18 flight steps down, and you're now 12 floors underground. And that's what that negative 12 means. Okay. For this one, it depends. And like again, if you see your multiple choices, multiple choice A is a fraction. I'm gonna make this up. B is a fraction. C is another fraction, and D is another fraction. Because if you put it like this in the calculator, you might get a decimal. So you might want to you're probably going to have to work from the decimal to the fraction back again. So just to make life easier, I don't have a fraction. Do I have a fraction? I'm going to pause this and see if I can find a fraction calculator online. So found the calculator. Figured the calculator I find is from Desmos. Great application, by the way. So let's see if I can pull this to the side, pull this guy to the side. Yeah, I can. Sort of. Make this smaller. All right, so hang on while let me just fast forward. Oh, you have the piece of paper in front of you, right? So here we go. So again, negative 3.2. Like I said, negative 3.2. I would change that, and I would write 32 over 10. So I'm going to write that. Okay, negative 32 over 10. Negative 32 over 10. Just pull that to the side. Negative 3 over 32 over 10. Wait. I'll figure it out. Times again another fraction, but it's a negative fraction. So like negative 5 over 8. Oops, 5 over 8. Now press enter. That gives me 2. All right, and positive 2 because a negative and a negative is positive. And then I'm going to take that 2 and I'm going to divide that by, again, oops, sorry, what did I do here? 2, divide that, and I guess they take it as a fraction. And I'm going to divide that by negative 1, and I'm going to put a fraction here. Oops, sorry. I'll figure this out. 1 and 1/4. So it's written the same way. And I'm going to press enter. And that's going to give us negative 1.6. So a lot of ways you can write negative 1.6. You know what? I'm not going to use a calculator because I am not. So I'm going to take that out, bring this back up again, and I think it's faster because I'm just wasting my time. And this way, you get to see. I don't know what I was thinking. So my apologies. Just wasted 2-3 minutes of your life on this. So I would do this. That was me. Without a calculator, I would change everything to a fraction times negative 5 over 8. And guess what? I'm going to change that division right now to multiplication and find the reciprocal of this. So let me change that. 4 times 1 is 4, so that's negative 5 over 4, right? So, but then when it comes to change, so when I change the division to multiplication, that's going to be the reciprocal. So I'm going to put the 4 on top of negative 5 to 1. I can find, so it's negative times a negative times a negative, so my answer is going to be negative. So I'm not going to worry about the sign anymore. This and this simplifies to 1 and 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So those two are simplified. 32 and 10, I can simplify and divide both by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 32 divided by 2 is 16. I can also divide these two, 16 and 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. So my final answer looks like 8/5, but negative. On top, 8 times 1 times 1 is 8, and at the bottom. So you can have some type of 1 and 3/5, and here's where that. And 3/5, you know, is 0.6, so that's a decimal, it's negative 1.6. So your calculator was correct. 2, we can determine the sum. If I'm going to determine the sum of that, I need to find an LCM. So it's a negative plus a negative, so we know that 2 negatives are going to be just a negative number. So let me find an LCM. Let's see, the LCM is, so let me first change it to an improper. So this one, 9 times 7 is 63 plus 1, 64 over 9 negative. Plus 12 times 8 is 96. 96 plus 5 is 101. Bit of negative. Oops. Over 12. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change that to a, what do you call it? Change that to a, my improper fraction. I'm going to change that to both to 36 because that's the LCM, the smallest number they have in common. You don't have to use 36. You can use bigger numbers if you so choose. So it's 9 times 4, so I'm going to multiply the top by 4, so that's a 16,256. Times 3, right? 12 times 3 is 36, so times 3 is going to give me negative 303. So it's a negative plus a negative, so the bottom I don't have to worry about, it's 36. And then on top, and here I will use a calculator, so I'm going to get 256 plus 303 equals 559. Your multiple choice answer will probably be a, what do you call, a mixed number, if this was your question. And it looks like 559 divided by 36 equals 15 times. So 36 goes into 559 15 times, and 36 times 15 equals 540. So I'm going to have 19 left over 36. I'm going to have some version of this answer as your multiple choice. 5. So I would definitely, I have to take care of this guy first, right here. So let me write this like this right now. Actually, I'm just going to do it. So 4/5 divided by 3/7. That's what's inside. And keep, change the division to multiplication, reciprocal, right? So this ends up being 28 over 15. So this whole thing I'm going to cross out, and I'm going to write 28 over 15. Now it's a fraction divided by a fraction, right? So I'm going to write 28 over 15 divided by 21 over 15, right? I'm not even worried about the minus 1.5 yet, so let's just do this together. So keep, change, and 15 over 21. So nice, these two cross out. 28 and 21, I can simplify. 28 divided by 7 is 4. 21 divided by 7 is 3. So this becomes 4 times 1 on top, and 1 times 3 on top is 4/3. So this whole, and now I can erase, I can even cross this. This whole thing here is the same thing as 4/3. Now I'm going to do 4/3 minus 1.5. So if my multiple choice answer are all in fraction formats, I would highly suggest you change this to fraction. Right now, because it's probably easier. So it's 4/3 minus, and 1.5 as a fraction is 15 over 10. Let's, common denominator is 30, right? So this is times 10, so on top is times 10, so that gives me 40. Times 3, and on top is times 3, so it's 45. Now it becomes super easy. So again, if you want to change this to an addition problem, you get 40 over 30 plus negative 45 over 30. The denominators are the same, so I don't have to worry about that. So now let's focus on the top. It's positive 30 and positive 40 and negative 45. Who's going to win? These guys are going to win. So it's going to be negative answer. By how much? It's not 15, sorry, 5 over 30. Which you can simplify and get negative 1 over 6. So your answer is going to be some version of that, whether a fraction format or a decimal format. Okay, but probably simplified. John lost $12.50 each day for 3 days. So on Monday, let's just say Monday, he lost 12.5. That's a negative, right? Loss. And then on Tuesday, plus he lost another negative 12.5. And I'm representing this negative because it's a loss. Plus negative 12.5. So this is one way you can represent this expression, right? And then you would add to find out how much you lost. Or how about this one? Negative 12.5 times, and I'm going to put this, times 3. Isn't that the same thing? So how much did he end up losing? Negative 37.5. So you have two choices of expressions. This one and this one, right? And your answer obviously is going to be a negative because it's a loss. So at the end of 3 days here, he lost negative $37.50. I'm not going to say negative $37. I'm sorry. I should say he lost, and just the fact that I say lost, you should know that it's negative 37.5. Okay. Division problem. I'm going to change this to an improper fractions. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2, so it's 5 over 3 really. Divided by 4 times 2 is 8 plus 3 is 11 over 4. Keep. Change the division to multiplication, and we're going to use the reciprocal because it's going to be negative 4 over 11. Negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 5 is 20, and 3 times 11 is 33. There's my final answer. These guys over here, ugh, I might have to use a calculator. So Jenny reads this many pages on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So she wants to know how many pages she needs to reach her weekly goal of 35 pages. So we need to add all these guys over here. So 12.5, I'm going to write 12.5. Hopefully that's better. Plus 1.35 is 1.6. What's 3/8? No idea what 3/8 is. 3 divided by 8. Okay, if you have a calculator, by all means, plus 7, and I can use a decimal calculator. All right, so I'm going to put all that in the decimals calculator because that's probably how you're going to do it on the test. Give me a second. All right, so I got the decimal calculator out. I'm going to rewind, I don't know, clear all that. So I'm going to add 12.5, so 12 12. No, 12 and a half plus, I guess I'll put the fraction first, plus 1 3/5 plus, and then she read 7 3/8, 7 3/8 plus, and she read 5, oops, she read 5, no, 5 3/4 on Thursday, and it gives me my answer as a decimal. Let's see if I can, why did she, oh no. Alright, so it gives me my answer as a, I don't know why, so, and I'll change it, okay, so keep 1089 over 40, because that was the LCM, and I don't know why they don't give me as a mixed number, so I'm going to change that to a mixed number for you, and let's see, 1089 40, it's 27, so it's 27, give me 1 second, and you're going to have 9 left over 40. So 40 goes into 1089 27 times. I'm going to erase this ugly 9 over here. Alright, 9 over 40. So that's how much she read. So Jenny is at 27, 9, 40. We added all these 4 days here. But she wants to read 35 pages per week. That's her goal. Now we're going to subtract, right? So we're going to subtract 35 minus this and figure out how much is left over. So this one is easy, right? It's going to be, if you do that in your calculator, and 31 over 40, and it's going to be 731 over 40. That's how many pages are left for her to read. Okay. That one I use a calculator. Didn't I just say I wasn't? But anyways, so you get the answer there. This one I will, but I'm just gonna. So the first thing I would do is set up the expression, negative 5.2. So the price went down, then went up, then went up again. So it's a popular toy. Then it went down. People lost interest, and they lost more interest. So at the end of this week, how was the price of that toy? So I'm going to write negative 5.2. Then it went up 2.25, and then went up again 4.56, and then it went down 13.77, and then 5.28. So at the end of the week, the price was down this much. Went down. So what does that mean? So imagine the price went down, so the price went that way, and it ended up at $34.02. Now, we are trying to find out this price. What did it start with? Obviously, it started at a higher price, right? And here's my drop. It was at this price, up and down throughout the week, and it took a big dive, and it ended up at $34.20. So obviously, the price at the beginning of the week was higher. So what do we do with these two numbers? We're obviously going to add. Right? So to find the starting price, I'm going to add 34.2 plus 17.44. Let's see if that makes sense for you. 34.2 plus 17.44. That equals $51. So it means at the beginning of the week, it was $51.64. You can always double check, right? So if the price of the toy was this and it goes down 17.44, do you really end up at 34.2? So just subtract those numbers, just to double check. And if you subtract, I really got 34.2, so I know I'm correct. So at the beginning of the week, the price of my toy was 51.64. So part A, I'm sorry, I should have written that the price of the toy decreased by $17.44. Okay. 10, this is the famous sirloin steak price. So if you buy 2.5 pounds of ribeye, and you can change this to 2.5. Okay, I would definitely do that. I can change this to 2.5. So let's do the rib. So the ribeye is, I buy 2.5 pounds, and I'm gonna multiply, what's 1 pound? $17.99. Ribeye is pretty expensive. So if I multiply these two, 2.5 times 17.99, I get $44. And in my calculator, I get $44.97, 44.97.5. So if I were to round this, and not work, but I have to, right? Because money doesn't go three places as far as we're concerned. So this 5 makes this go to 98. So there's the price of my ribeye, 2.5 pounds. And then I'm gonna buy some sirloin. Sirloin's also pricey. So I'm gonna buy 2.5 pounds. You can write 2.5 or 2.5 as a fraction. I'm gonna multiply that by the sirloin, $14.89. So sirloin's a little bit cheaper, right? So you already know it's gonna be a lower number. So I'm gonna multiply my calculator, 2.5 times 14.89, and I get that it's calculator-wise 37.225. So I'll round it to the nearest hundredth, and that 5 is going to make that 2 go one higher, so it's $37.23. Well, we already know the ribeye is more expensive, so we've got to figure out how much more. So 44.98, we're going to subtract these two numbers. Minus 37.23, and that's going to give us, it's much more expensive, not much more expensive, more expensive by $7.75. That's your answer. Okay, so before I start, it's not too many left. Before I start this one, number 11, I would look in your notebooks, and then I would write a few things. So final, how do I find a final? Start, let's change, right? What's start? Start equals final minus change. Actually, I'm gonna write there. I'll write it inside, so that's fine. And then start equals final minus change. It just helps knowing these. And then change equals final minus start. So look at these three. We have 1, 2, 3 problems. On the first one, what is it that I want? I want to change. I want to change. So I'm going to use this equation. If I want to change C, do I know my final? Yes, 15. Minus, do I know my start? It's negative 8. So it's minus negative 8. And this becomes 15 plus 8 and 23. So the change was positive 23. That makes sense because you were on negative 8. You went up 23 and you landed on 15, right? You're on the negative 8th floor. You go up 23 floors up. Where are you now? You're on the 15th floor. Okay, so you're negative 8 temperature-wise, and you have to go all the way to 15. How much does the temperature have to rise? It has to rise by 23 degrees. And that kind of makes sense, right? I'm going to erase this. Second one, I start at 12. The change is negative 23. So you're 12 degrees right now. It changed by negative 23. It means the temperature went down. So what's my final temperature? The temperature should be much colder than 12. So I want my final, and I'm going to use this one. The final equals start 12 plus negative 23. So it ends up being, well, there's more negatives, so it's going to be a negative answer, and by 11. That makes sense. You're at 12 degrees. It gets colder by negative 23, and you end up being at negative 11. Elevator, same thing. You're on the 12th floor. So if you're on the 12th floor and I ask you to go 23 flights of stairs down, where would you end up being? You would be all the way on the ground, negative 11 flights. Third one, we want change again. Oh, really? I messed up. I should have put one question was the start. So, but it's okay. So I want to change again, and I'm going to use this one. So change, C, is the final, negative 12, minus what's the start, 7, and then I'm going to use 7. Keep, change the addition, and change the 7 to negative 7. And negative 7, negative 12 and negative 7 is negative 19. Let's see if that makes sense. I'm at 7 degrees, pretty cold. It drops negative 19, and you're at negative 12. You're on the 7th floor. I asked you to walk 19 floors down. Where would you end up? On the negative 12th floor. And that kind of makes sense, yeah. 12. Okay, so it tells you, and you will, and I told you to circle some numbers. So the numbers that you circle are going to be your part 2 question. So I'm going to write out the steps here first. So the first thing, number one, is add the fractions. And I need to add the fractions in the numerator. That's the first thing you're going to do. Number two, divide, right? So you're going to divide whatever you got here. So the answer to an addition problem. So you're going to divide the sum by the numerator. Right, you're going to divide that. Divide that. I'm sorry, you're going to add those two first, and then you're going to find one fraction, right? That's going to be a fraction. I'm going to make up a fraction. I'm going to divide the next two, right? I'm going to divide this fraction by this. And then divide the sum by the numerator. And then you're going to get, all this is going to be one fraction, right? It's going to be one fraction, whatever that fraction is. And so you're going to divide. Again, you're going to divide because here's the division side. Divide, and we call that the quotient, right? You're going to divide the quotient by negative 1 and 1, 2. So it's pretty simple. If you wrote that, I would give you full credit. So let's see if that's right. So the first thing is to add those two. So let's add negative 3 over 5 plus 1 over 4. Common denominator is 20. So times 4, it's negative 12 over here. Times 5, it's going to be 5. So this ends up becoming 20. Negative plus a positive, there's more negatives, so it's negative 7 over 20. So this whole thing, and I'm going to cross this out, becomes negative 7 over 20. Now I'm going to take, number 2 says, divide the sum, right? I just found the sum, the answer to an addition problem. Divide the sum by the, not numerator, and here's my mistake, oops. Divide the sum by the denominator. Okay, this should have said denominator. This number by 8 over 10. So negative 7 over 20, and then we're going to divide that by the denominator, which is 8 over 10. So keep, change the division to multiplication, and we're going to turn 10 over 8 upside down. Yeah? Can I simplify? Yes. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 20 divided by 10 is 2. Now I'm ready. Negative times a positive is a negative. That's negative 7, and 2 times 8 is 16. So now I can cross this whole thing out. I'm going to erase this. This whole thing is the same thing as negative 7 over 16, which I'm now going to divide by negative 1.5. So let me write that out. Negative 7 over 10 divided by negative 1.5. Let's change that to an improper. Negative 7 over 10 divided by 2 times 1 is 2, so 3 over 2, negative. Now I can change it to a multiplication problem. Negative 7 over 10 times negative 2 over 3. Negative times a negative is a positive. Can I simplify? Yeah, this one. What's this one? 7 times 1 is 7. 5 times 3 is 15. So this is my final answer. So is that what I did? I added the two fractions, so I'm going to erase them. So what did I do first? I added these guys up, right? What did I do? Why did I do that? So I added 1. And then I divided by 8 over 10, the denominator. And then 3, I divided the quotient. So whatever I found here, I divided that, and here's number 3. So there's an addition, there's a division, and there's another division. And that's exactly what I did. Okay. Okay, so this is a absolute value, right? So not a big deal. And first we do the operation inside. So it's negative 23 plus negative 5, right? Keep, change, and change the 5 to negative 5. So this is absolute value of negative 8. What does that mean? It means how many units is negative 28 away from 0? It's 28 units distance-wise. That's why it's 28 positive. Here, let's do negative 5 minus, and let's do what's 12 minus. Let's do inside the parentheses, the absolute value signs first. 12 minus 9 is 3. Right? I can't subtract from 5 yet, so negative 5 minus, what's the absolute value of 3? How far is it from 0? It's 3 units away. Now I can subtract these two numbers, or if you like, change it to an addition problem. And negative 5 and negative 3 is negative 8. And that's my final answer. Okay? Saying final answer. So annoying. This one, I'm just going to do it because we need a calculator for that. But please feel free to use that. So it's 13 over 10 divided by negative, and I'm going to write that as a fraction. 13 over 10 times negative 100 over 45. Anything I can simplify? Yes, the 10 and 100. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 100 divided by 10 is 10. Positive times, oh, I can simplify more. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 45 divided by 5 is 9. Positive times a negative is a negative. 13 times 2 is 26. And 1 times 9 at the bottom is a 9. You can, most likely, probably, you're going to do, 9 goes in 26 2 times, which is 18. 18. And then 8 left over 9. So your multiple choice answer will probably look like that for this problem. Okay. Last question. I am going to change everything to a decimal. 8.2 minus 6.4 plus negative 2.1 minus 7.89. And now it's just a matter of entering down in the calculator. So I got 8.2 minus 6.4, exactly as it is, plus negative 2.1, and then minus 7.89, and according to my calculations, it's negative 8.19. Okay, that's literally the test. If you circle the ones that I said that might come up as a part 2, they'll be fine.